Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Looking for ways to keep the kids entertained while traveling? Netflix Games lets them jump into fun, creative adventures at no extra cost. Everything's unlocked with your Netflix membership. From Paw Patrol Academy and Lego Duplo World to Barbie color creations and World of Peppa Pig. There's something for every little explorer. And you don't need Wi-Fi. Kids can play anytime, anywhere. Visit netflixfamily.com/travel tips for all your kids' holiday entertainment.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Steve Moore is on vacation. This is John Catsimatidis, and in the studio with me we have Adam Johnson.
Yes, sir.
And Adam, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I run the American Ingenuity Fund, and you say, what's that? Well, it's so much fun, John. My job is to identify the people, companies, and technologies based here in the U.S. that are leading the world forward. So I get to find these companies that I think are going to double or triple their cash flow over the next several years, and therefore I think the stocks are going to do the same. We put them in a portfolio, and we let time work its wonderful magic. So it's an exciting, constantly evolving thing. I feel like I do crossword puzzles, John, and I'm always trying to find the answers before the clues change.
Well, there's so many things happening, and the markets, we talked about it during the Larry Kudlow show, a lot of things happening, and the economy, I think, is great. By the way, Steve Moore is on vacation, and he may be calling in from wherever his vacation spot is, and I guess he deserves a week's vacation.
Oh, of course he does. He's a hardworking man.
Yes, absolutely. What else do you think? Where are we going in 2026?
Oh, you bet. Well, where we're going, first of all, let me say that where we are is pretty good, and where we're going is even better. And I'll tell you why I say that, John. We have almost the most number of people ever making the highest gross income ever, spending the most amount of money ever. And that is why GDP is growing above 4%. Corporate earnings are growing double digits for the past 4 quarters, and I think we're about to see a 5th quarter. Because of AI, we have profitability gains, so we have record profits. And of course, what might be the most important for all, John, because everything flows down, right? The White House is finally on our side. We have an administration that is business friendly, that is focused on helping people and businesses. And that means sometimes getting out of the way with fewer regulations. And sometimes it means tax cuts, which is why we're going to see the largest refund season ever. That's incredibly stimulative. We have an orientation where we realize we have more oil than Saudi Arabia. We have more oil than Russia. Let's use it.
Not including the Arctic Ocean.
Well, that's right. And we're fighting over that, which is one reason in part why a certain someone is saying we should get Greenland. So, John, there is so much more to like than to fear right now, John. I'm very excited about 2026, and it's why my American Ingenuity Fund is fully invested.
I would love to get Greenland.
Would you?
What would we name we named the Gulf of America after instead of Gulf of Mexico. What would we name the sea next to Greenland?
I think we would call it the American Sea.
That's not bad.
You like that?
There's no American Sea already, right?
There could be. And the other thing about it is, that would be just, you'd have Greenland on one side, you have Canada on the other. And anytime you can sort of poke the Canadians, it's always kind of fun to do. I mean, they're good folks up there. I got a lot of friends up in Canada. They think sometimes we get a little wacky down here in the U.S., but it's kind of fun to be able to poke fun with one another.
I do a lot of business in Canada. Yep. I think the Canadian people are great people.
Yep.
There's a few bureaucrats I don't stomach.
No.
the bureaucrats that killed those 400 ostriches. I don't know if you heard about it. I was on that campaign to save those 400 ostriches along with Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz, because those 400 ostriches had that special
like bird flu. Are you telling me there were like 400 ostriches in Canada that had some kind of bird flu?
No, they had it and they got cured.
Really?
And they had they think we had a cure.
Yeah.
Because they cured themselves. So the ostriches are million-year-old animals.
Right.
And, and
so they have a good immune system.
And Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz offered the FDA,
right,
that reports to them, to go to Canada and test these ostriches to see if they have the antibodies.
Right.
And the Canadian, the CFIA is a bureaucratic thing that's part of the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization reports to China more so than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we went to the courts, we went through the Supreme Court, and the CFIA sent, when the Supreme Court refused to hear it,
right,
the CFIA sent in marksmen to shoot these ostriches.
Ugh.
To shoot them.
Dreadful.
No
reason to do that.
No heart. And I had written, Secretary Kennedy appealed to the Prime Minister Carney, and Dr. Oz appealed to him. Our ambassador in Canada appealed to him.
Yeah.
And guess what? Secretary Carney, Prime Minister Carney didn't do anything.
Well, ever since the president suggested that could be the 51st state, all of a sudden the guard was up, and they didn't want to hear it. So I can understand.
Yes.
They don't want to take our help.
Yeah, but why kill these ostriches? And there's rumors around.
Yeah.
That they made some kind of pharmaceutical thing, and that if these ostriches had the antibodies to cure bird flu or to cure things, that Canada had a $500 million investment with some pharmaceutical company, and that's the reason they didn't want to have the cure.
Unbelievable.
Stuff like that happens.
I know. I can't believe we're actually talking about this.
I
it's true.
Apologize.
No.
This is going to be your show, but I had to get it off my chest.
I hear you. We all have our pet passions, no pun intended, John. It's a crazy world, and foreign relations are even crazier. I'm told that the real host of the show, Steve Moore, is actually with us, John.
Wow. I mean, what country is he in? What state is he in? Steve Moore, are you there?
Hey, John. How are you? Hi, guys.
See, his name of his show is More Money.
More Money.
He made so much more money, he went on vacation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what are you doing on my show? Without my permission. Come on.
It's a good question.
You said you're on vacation, so somebody had to sit in the chair.
That's right. We still had to make the donuts, Steve.
Well, thank you for so ably hosting my show today. I am in the best city. I know you guys are going to probably contest this, but I'm in the best city in America. I'm in Chicago, Illinois.
The best?
Wait.
We're the home of the Bears.
Chicago, Illinois, voluntarily?
Oh, that's a mean thing to say, John. Well,
we talked to the former governor, Rod Blagojevich. See, I said it right.
Yeah.
And Obama sent him to jail, which he shouldn't have gone. And President Trump pardoned him. And he's one smart guy. And they passed a law in Illinois that he can never run for governor again. You know why? Because people will vote for him. He would win.
Oh, exactly.
That's like Marion Barry 2.0.
By the way, instead we're stuck with
J.B. Pritzker, who made sure his family made sure he won't go into the family business because they didn't want to ruin the family business. So they put him into politics.
So now he's ruined the state of Illinois. It's a very sad thing.
Which, by the way, Steve, gets me to my question to you. You began this saying that you think the country's greatest city, and you said Chicago.
It was once.
I was born in Chicago, so I'm kind of partial. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Crazy. But do you really think it's the best
hold
city?
on. Let me put a little asterisk on what I said. When I was growing up here in the 60s and 70s, it was the greatest city, but it has been ruined by left-wing politicians. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a special city. There's nothing like going out on a big sports night on Rush Street, going in and out of the bars with friends.
That's what I did last night.
Good for you. and the green. Well, like I said, I was born there. The green water of St. Patty's Day, where they reverse the current in the Chicago River. I mean, it's a great place, a home of great sports
the joke
teams.
Was, well, if they can turn that water, green for St. Patrick's Day, why can't they turn it blue for the rest of the year?
Well, I'd like to see it red, if you know what I mean.
Now, you tell me, Steve, and you tell me, Adam, at what point did Chicago change?
It was gradual. When I grew up, it was pretty bipartisan. You have Republican and Democratic governors, and it was a pretty centrist state. And I'd say sometime in the last 10 or 15 years, it became more and more left wing. Now it is, it's there with New York, New Jersey, California as one of the bluest states where people are leaving, and it just kind of breaks my heart to see it. But Illinois is losing population now to Florida and Texas and Utah and all the red
Tennessee.
States. It's
so,
a cautionary
so's New York
tale,
State.
by the way. It's a cautionary tale for New York. Do not go in this direction of high taxes, high regulation, anti-business. It'll kill you.
Now, I'll give you my favorite statistic. By the way, I also want you Chicago guys, since we're on Chicago, tell me how President Obama went from state senator to president in 3.5 years.
Pretty amazing. I mean, he's an extremely charismatic guy, no question about it. I've always said, that it was basically the 4 or 5 politicians in my lifetime that really connected so much with the American people were obviously Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton and Obama, and now a guy named Donald J. Trump.
Yes.
I think Donald J. Trump is outshining all of them.
Well, if you talk about performance, I'd put Reagan and Trump near the top of the last century in terms of the great presidents, in terms of their handling of the U.S. economy. And incidentally, the reason I wanted to come on my show today,
more money,
is because I'm here to tell you, and I said this last week, John, and I'm sticking with my message, 2026 is going to be a blockbuster year for the U.S. economy. I have a question for you two, since it's my show.
Go ahead, it's your show.
I want you guys each to give me a date when we pass the Dow 50,000.
No, I already announced that 6 months ago, and I'm right. It's before December 31.
Wow, that would
now
be
60,000.
Now you're talking.
I predicted 60,000 for December 31, 26.
Well, to be clear, the Dow closed yesterday at 48,710.
Yes.
So we're talking about another 1,300 points.
It can happen in one day.
Which is a few percent.
It could.
My call, Steve, is January. I think January. I think this market is a coiled spring. And I think it's been held back by some of the tax law selling. So the angst over AI. Does it cost too much? No. Are they spending too much? No. And we're going to work through that in the same way we worked through that whole China DeepSeek scare where we thought, wait a minute. Is China going to steal the mantle of AI from the U.S.? As it turns out, no, because they built DeepSeek on the back of 2,200 NVIDIA chips and stolen code from ChatGPT.
Yes,
right. So I think we're just working through that AI angst. The economy is strong. Earnings are strong. And Steve, I think this is a coiled spring as the big, beautiful bill benefits start percolating through the economy.
Well, I agree with all of that. And I don't think we're going to break Dow 54. Well, you only have 3 trading days, right, John? Maybe
3 trading 4 days.
Yeah,
it's only 1,300 points. I mean, that's
true.
That's 2%.
We could.
That would be quite a. But here, the main point I want to make to you guys is this next year, as I like the idea of the spring coil. I like that because you've got the tax cut that really kicks in. People come up to me on the street, guys, and they say, "Hey, Steve Moore, you said that tax cut was going to be so great for the middle class." I said, "Well, yeah," and they said, "I don't feel it yet." And I said, "Well, you haven't felt it yet because you haven't gotten it yet. You're going to get it next year. You're going to start it next week. In 10 days, people are going to see a big, big increase in their paycheck because less money will be withheld." And John, remember, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. All of those things kick in January.
Amazing. I mean, this is a gift to the American people. And it came through this president and thankfully through two Republican houses of Congress that actually made this all possible. It wouldn't have been possible if Democrats controlled one of the two houses. So thank goodness.
That's true. You know what, by the way, on that note, it's sad to me, John, because I know I don't know, maybe you used to be a Democrat, but not one single Democrat in the House or Senate voted for the Trump tax bill, which is preventing a $2,000 tax increase on the middle class next year. I don't understand the logic of that. That's not putting America first.
Well, that's because they'll oppose anything that has to do with Trump. John, I'm told that we have to take a quick break.
Let's take that break, and Steve, stay on.
All right, let's go.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, this is John Catsimatidis, and Steve Moore is on vacation, if you can call it a vacation, in Chicago. And I'm in the studio here with Adam Johnson. And Adam, I'm going to be giving Adam Johnson the complete phone soon. And Steve Moore, we have a few more minutes in this segment. Yeah. What do you want to close off on?
Well, first of all, I want your ace producer to play my favorite song, My Kind of Town, all right? Before we go up
there. Well, he really does love Chicago.
He loves Chicago.
He loves it. I mean, I thought it was a joke, but he's serious.
No, I am serious. But listen, what I have to tell people is 2026, blockbuster year. We're going to see big returns on the stock market. We're going to see finally back to 2% inflation, which is the Fed target. And that means we've got a strong dollar, a stable dollar. And I think we're going to see big income gains for middle income folks. And so it's just set up because of the big Trump tax cut, because we're producing more oil and gas than ever before. Did you see, we had something in the hotline the other day, guys, about how, remember when Trump said, I'm going to repeal 3 regulations for every new regulation? Remember that?
Yeah, keep going.
You know what it is so far this year, the ratio?
What?
100 deregulations for every new regulation.
Wow. That is so powerful, Steve, right, because that percolates through the entire economy.
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah. I mean, do you guys remember the regulation was going to force everybody to buy electric vehicles?
Yeah, the worst.
Oh, my God.
Get rid of it.
And you know how I feel about electric vehicles. I'm in the oil business.
Steve, we've got about 20 seconds left. Anything you want to say to everyone before we let you go and get back to Chicago?
You guys have done a great job. You're hired. All
right. Thank you, Steve. Enjoy. And I'm sure we'll be talking before the new year. And take care of Chicago for us.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, we are back. And this is not Steve Moore. We left Steve Moore on
in Chicago.
Is that a vacation?
I mean, he's calling it a vacation.
Family. He's with family.
He's with family. He's from Chicago. I mean, I get it. You can't help where you're from. I'm from Chicago. I was born there. But admittedly, I wouldn't say what he told us in the last half hour, which was it's the greatest city in the country. No, I would not say that about Chicago, John.
I agree with you. And you being from Chicago, how long did it take to get into this mess?
Well, God bless my parents. My dad got transferred. He was in advertising. My dad was like one of the Mad Men guys. Remember that show, Mad Men? The Drapers, Don Draper?
Yeah.
That was my dad.
Wow.
Yeah. No joke.
That is something.
Yeah,
Chicago was a big advertising town.
Oh, huge.
Chicago was halfway between Los Angeles and New York, so you could cover both coasts.
Yeah, that's right.
And the South.
And the South.
So that's why Chicago was centrally located, and it was great until, I guess, the last few years you had a big exodus.
Well, it's been tough. I mean, and not to bust chops on Chicago, but, my mother used to, when we were growing up there when I was a kid, Dad was being his Don Draper self and doing all the Mad Men stuff, and Mom would volunteer in the emergency room at a couple of the inner city hospitals. And back then, the gunfights out of Cabrini Green were frightening. And here we are all these decades later, and it's still happening. And I mentioned just because, Mom would be in the emergency room, and here she was a volunteer. She wasn't even an RN, and she would get covered in blood because people were coming in with gun wounds. And, they just were short-staffed, and they'd need volunteers to help. So Chicago is such a glorious city with such a wonderful history, but boy, they got to figure out the violence over there. They really
I can't understand what the heck is going on. And the Supreme Court the other day ruled against Trump that he can't send in the National Guard, but he can't send in the Marines.
Right.
And I had John Woo on, the professor from Burbank, he used to be Attorney General.
Right.
I had Dershowitz on.
Alan Dershowitz.
One smart guy, and
I'll say.
I respect both of them. And he says, yes, this is the current review of the Supreme Court, but they may change it again, that you can't have the president cannot call in the National Guard in the state without the permission, I guess,
of the governor.
But he has the right to send in the Marines or any other, Army, Marines, or whatever.
Yeah, which is a little frightening when you think about it. I'm not sure you necessarily want armed Marines walking around Chicago. National Guard is one thing, armed Marines is another. That's a different mission. I want those guys overseas protecting us and doing what
so how do we protect? Do we need another force? How do we protect this? See, President Trump, and I know him well.
Yeah.
He feels that he has an obligation. If the governor and the mayor of the state are not doing their job,
right,
that he has an obligation,
I would agree,
to protect the citizens of the United States. They're still U.S. citizens.
I would agree. The issue is, in part, what makes this country great, and that is the series of checks and balances that prevents any one aspect or branch of government for getting too much power over another. And, it does cut both ways. I mean, imagine if we had a Democrat in the White House imagine a Gavin Newsom who has absolutely, for all intents and purposes, I can't say no appreciation for the right of law, but gosh, he has let a lot of those cities in California. Think of San Francisco. I mean, he's allowed so much to happen that's not acceptable, John. If you walk down by the Embarcadero, the city has actually painted yellow circles on the sidewalk so that a homeless person can pitch a tent inside the yellow circle, and that is quote unquote his or her property. That's crazy.
I think Gavin Newsom has a little bit of a sickness. I don't understand that way of life. And I hope, and look what's happening in Minnesota.
Right.
I mean, originally
Chaos.
they thought $1 billion disappeared, and now the number is closer to $9 billion. Where is the checks and balances in our cities, our states, our country? And President Trump is trying to straighten it out. I mean, we were before, if Harris would have won along with Waltz,
right,
we were on the edge of disaster.
Imagine what this country would look like if Harris and Waltz had won. And thank goodness, not only did they not win, but they actually lost all 6 swing states. So America figured it out. Winston Churchill, the thing about America is they eventually do the right thing, ... after they've tried everything else, right? So, I mean, they gave Harris and Waltz all the leeway in the world and realized this is not a good idea. And God bless Americans of all colors, creeds, shapes, sizes, and locations came together and said no.
All we want is the quality of life.
Yes.
And I've said that, there was a zillion pictures in the last few days of me and Governor Hochul sitting next to each other because I invited her to see my premiere of my movie on Marty.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she actually come?
She sat next to me.
Really? What was that like?
The movie, Marty Supreme?
No.
It was a great movie.
You and Governor Hochul, I mean, that's like oil and water.
We sat there for 3 hours. No, I'm a very respected person.
Yeah.
You know,
was she respectful of you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, we were very civilized, and you know, we go back to the days. See, I'm older than you. I'm much older than you.
Oh,
and
wiser.
I go back to
Older
the days where Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, they didn't like each other, but they sat around the same table.
Correct.
Made a deal. And they hated each other during the day, yelling and screaming, but they had a beer and sat around the table and made a deal. Yes. And the same thing with Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton. Now, let me tell you that story, because I don't know how old were you. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You were a kid.
I was a kid.
And Newt Gingrich, the deficit was $5.5 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Newt Gingrich loved America. Bill Clinton loved America. They didn't like each other.
Right.
But they sat around the table and they took the deficit. You're sitting down?
Yep.
From $5.5 trillion down to $5 trillion. Is that scary?
Well, I wish we could have more of the same.
We don't. Right now, they won't even sit down at the same table together.
It's shocking.
In other words, if the sky is blue and Donald Trump says the sky is blue, and all the Democrats unified would say, you're wrong, he's lying to you, the sky is not blue.
It's true. And they'd probably say, well, look at it at sunset. And then it's all kinds of colors. It's not blue. I mean they just twist facts.
I personally believe, Adam, and I know you're a conservative. I'm a middle of the road guy.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I was a Bill Clinton Democrat. I'm a Donald Trump Republican. Hey, you know, the joke I tell, which is not a joke, it's true. I lived in the lower 60s and on Fifth Avenue. And our apartment was...
Which for our non-New York listeners,
Fifth Avenue,
it doesn't get any better. If you are on Fifth Avenue in the 60s, you are it.
The Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast.
And Bill Clinton, President Clinton used to come to our home for dinner parties all the time.
Really? And
the Secret Service permanently wired that apartment.
Really? Yes. How so? What do you mean? What kind of wires did they put in there?
Well, this is 30 years ago. There wasn't transmission stuff. It was more wires than anything.
Yeah, there was no Wi-Fi.
There was no Wi-Fi. There was no iPhones.
Yeah, right. The first iPhone was 2008. Isn't that crazy? It's not long ago.
Except in the 1990s, they made Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek. And they had iPhones. You go back and watch those shows. They had iPhones and iPads.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I remember it was a big deal. I was working at a wonderful little brokerage place called Furman Sells, and they said, we got a special deal. We're going to offer you Nokia or however you pronounce it.
Roy Furman was a good friend of mine.
Yeah, Roy Furman. Yeah, good man. Bernard Sells,
yes,
who, by the way, ran $1.6 billion single-handedly. No analyst. He did have a long-time secretary and a single trader, but he ran $1.6 billion on his own and made like 20% every year.
Well, let me finish this story. I'm going to go back and finish the story. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
And President Trump, he wasn't president at that day. He was a friend of mine, and the way we became friends, we were both members of the Police Athletic League board.
Oh, cool.
And he lived on Trump Tower on 56th Street.
Right.
And the traffic would tied up. He used to call me up and say, John, you got the president over again? You're screwing up my traffic. This is a true story.
That's amazing.
And now he's the president. And I had dinner, me and Margot had dinner with him at the White House. It was just four of us at the table. It was the president, and it was in Rose Garden.
Yep.
And everybody else had big tables.
Yep.
We only had one table in the corner, the president, me, Margot, and Bill Ackman.
Oh,
I guess he wanted to sit with New Yorkers.
Oh, I love it. So we had you and Bill Ackman.
Yes.
Bill Ackman, the hedge fund manager, and you, the maestro of so many different things, John.
And he said, I remember he sat there and said, John, you believe we're sitting here? 20 years ago, do you think that we would be sitting here at the White House and I'd be the president?
I bet he did.
Those are the words.
Yeah.
Those are the words he used.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. He's doing a great job.
Yes.
Hey, does he make a few errors? Everybody makes a few errors.
And by
Nobody's
the way,
perfect.
you can be a Donald Trump supporter and you don't have to agree with everything he says or does.
I
but
agree.
I think overall he's doing an outstanding job.
He saved America.
Yeah.
And by saving America, he saved the free world. Because
Arguably.
we were on the edge of disaster. You know, me and Bill Fugazi and Lee Iacocca.
Lee Iacocca, former chairman of Chrysler,
Yes.
and Bill Fugazi, who ran the largest limousine company here in the U.S. for years.
Yes, and we ran Ellis Island, the Ellis Island Foundation.
Yeah.
And we all believe in immigration.
Right.
But
Of course.
But what Ellis Island did is they brought in people. We need 20,000 carpenters. All right, bring in 20,000 carpenters. But we brought in people that wanted to make them, to Americanize themselves, that wanted to assimilate and become Americans.
Yeah.
Not people that migrants that were being invaded in. So my comment was, immigration, yes. Invasion, no.
Agreed.
And I want immigration. We all want it.
We all want it.
But we don't want to be invaded by people that don't want to assimilate. They want to change our way of life.
That's right. And that's not going to happen. But I tell you what is going to happen. We're going to give people a moment to just take a break, go get a coffee, a Coke, whatever, and come back in 2 minutes and join us. How's that sound, John?
It sounds good.
All right.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, Steve Moore is on vacation in Chicago, if you can call that a vacation.
It's
But
one man's
Adam,
vacation.
You're from Chicago too.
Yeah,
I can't.
I am.
But Chicago was a great town, and right now it's a combat zone.
Yeah, it's a combat zone. But John, New York, where we're sitting right now on 3rd Avenue, looking out at a surprisingly clean city after the snow overnight. I'm curious to see what's going to happen over the next many months, because we've got a new mayor coming in, Mr. Mamdani, who is an avowed socialist, and he wants to make some big changes. He wants free public transit, among other things. He wants squatters to have rights in homes so they can't be kicked out. I mean, he wants some really radical stuff, like free health care for kids, and he has no clue how he's going to get it paid for.
Well, I had a mission from the White House. I won't mention names.
Yeah.
That even though, because it was Curtis, it was Cuomo and Mamdani, because the mayor Adams pulled out.
Right.
And that the president felt that Andrew Cuomo was the best person to beat
Mamdani.
Mamdani.
Yeah.
And he came close. And
sort of.
Curtis was supposed to pull out. And look, I'm getting all kinds of blames from Curtis, and he's blaming some of our WABC people. But we stayed with him up to the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a chance.
I know.
So the last 2 weeks we said to him, Curtis, we love you, but it's time.
It's time.
And he's just bashing us and whatever.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not nice. And, but all we wanted to do, all that President Trump wanted to do is to have a non-socialist. And the other discussion is that the Socialist Party was always around. The Communist Party is always around. But they realize that they can't make a movement in the United States. They end up with 2%, 3%, 4%. So they made a move to take over the Democratic Party. And that's what they're doing.
It's what they're trying to do.
And there's a clash going on between common sense Democrats and communists and socialists. So the question is, what's going to happen to the Democratic Party? And the truth is, I don't know. I know I still talk to President Clinton once in a while, and he doesn't like what's going on.
No. Well, and Bill Clinton was the classic blue dog Democrat, right? He was Bubba, right?
Him and Kennedy.
Yeah. And he was the kind of Democrat that even Republicans could sort of grudgingly say, yeah, I kind of like the guy. And he was also a horse trader. He was willing to cross the aisle to get the deal done. And he, I think, really was, he was in some ways a flawed person, but as a president, I think he was very gifted at bringing the nation together. That's very different from some of the Democrats that we're seeing now.
Okay, we got Nancy Tangler coming on.
Oh, great.
And we only got 3 minutes in this segment, but she'll hold over for the next segment.
Oh, wonderful. Nancy, welcome.
Welcome to me. Welcome to you both. Thanks for having me. I was wine shopping, and I wish I was doing it at Gristedes, but not so.
Well, this is John Catsimatidis, and my new profession is a movie star, and and we have Adam Johnson here, and Adam.
Well, I'm so glad that Nancy's able to join us. You know, John, Nancy is one of the star money managers of Wall Street. She's been doing it forever. And no, there's no need to be humble about this, Nancy. You have just shown so much vision and insight in the way you look after people's money. What is your view as you look out towards 2026? What's your view on the markets and where we're headed?
So, Adam, great question. Almost impossible to answer, but we do have a view. I can't guarantee it's right. I think, if I'm wrong, it's the most epically wrong I've been in my career, but I do think the bull market continues for probably many of the reasons that both you and John, believe, which is the one big beautiful bill is a tailwind to both the consumer and to corporations. Earnings growth, we started the year at 12%, and then all the analysts revised down around the tariff tantrum, and we ended the year around 12. And guidance for next year is very good. Companies have figured out how to maintain margins utilizing AI, streamlining supply chains, even with tariffs in place. So I think you want to stay long the technology trade. You should be broadening out. We've been broadening out for about a year in other sectors, but this is a market you don't want to sit on the sidelines for, even though it will be year 4 in the bull market. So we're pretty optimistic, much like the 90s, by the way.
Oh, I like that. I like that comparison. I tell you, Nancy, one of the things that really impresses me is that we've had 4 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth, and it's been accompanied by near record margins, up around 13%. I think that the fourth quarter is going to be a 5th consecutive quarter. Do you think that continues well into 2026?
I do, Adam. I mean, I think what you're seeing is, and I've drawn the analogy to the 90s, but you're seeing productivity-driven growth like we did in the 90s, where we had 3% inflation, 5% Fed funds rate, and 7 to 8% 10-year. So robust stock returns can coexist with higher inflation and higher interest rates if you have productivity. And we're seeing it across sectors from all of the companies we own and follow, that they are implementing AI. And it's not just saving them money, it's helping them to develop new products and grow business and, detect fraud if you're a financial company. So it's enhancing the worker. And yes, we've seen slower hiring and slower firing, but you know what's up astronomically? New business applications.
Ooh, good.
But I don't think it's in New York State, though.
No, they're all moving to Tennessee and Florida.
And we have a few here in Arizona and Nevada where I split my time. But it's not California, that's for sure.
No, it's certainly not. Nancy, we are going to take a very brief break. Can you stay with us into the next hour?
Yes.
Yeah, either that or we'll call you back after the break.
Okay.
Okay, we'll call you back after the break.
Perfect. John, take it away.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Oh, we'll buy you diamond rings and everything else right here on the Steve Moore More Money Show. Steve has made so much money, John Catsimatidis, that he is taking the day off. He's out in his hometown of Chicago taking a little break. You and I are manning the fort.
We're manning the fort, and you're going to have the whole fort soon.
That's frightening.
And you're in charge. And if I made that much money, as much as Steve Moore made, I might not go to Chicago. I might go to
someplace warm.
Miami or St. Pete or Naples.
Yeah, you and me both. Well, I'll tell you, someone who's in someplace warm is Nancy Tengler. She is a very well-known money manager, and she is, I believe, in Arizona right now. Probably just got off the horse. Nancy, are you with us? Were you riding your horses this morning?
I was indeed. Yes. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds like a perfect day. It's snowy and cold here in New York, but we are persevering as we do.
Oh, gosh. Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So you probably remember the great Byron Wien of Morgan Stanley, the longtime strategist. Do you remember Byron Wien?
I do.
Well, this time
10 predictions.
Yes, exactly right. He every year published his 10 predictions for the year ahead. And it's funny because people used to give him a hard time. Some of them were kind of crazy. And he would say, they don't all have to come true, but I want us to all start thinking about them.
Yes.
Well,
he was something else.
He was something else. And to honor Byron Wien, I had my own little experiment with that. As you know, Nancy, I run the Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund, so I called it Bullseye's 12 Days of Christmas, Potential Presents and Pitfalls for the Year Ahead. So I have my own 12.
Very good, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just read one or two, and then I would like to open it up to you, whether you think there are some presents and or pitfalls. So here's one of them. I said, number 5, actually, the largest ever tax refunds spur consumer spending and GDP growth, but inflation reaccelerates. What do you think of that?
I think you're right, actually. We have been, expanding our exposure to consumer discretionary stocks on the premise that the consumer will indeed continue to drive spending growth, as they did in last quarter's GDP number that just got revised up further. But that does open up the opportunity for inflation to rise higher. And I think we need to see this administration do something about housing with some sort of stimulus option, like a credit, a tax credit, so that we can get more supply and get housing prices down. Because I think that's one of the big problems. And then, as you know, of course, insurance. So I think you nailed it. Well,
thank you. What do you think of this sort of theory that's been kind of circulating around Washington that maybe, to at least try to help ease the housing crisis, we could start talking about letting developers come onto federal land? What do you think of that?
Yeah. I think you want to, as my dear mentor, Dr. Arthur Laffer, said, you want to line up the incentives. And so if you want builders to build and we have the land and we could monetize that, what could be better? I think all options should be on the table. So I love the idea whenever we get, incentives that are driven towards growth, towards producing growth. And that would in fact do that, because Adam, the multiplier on housing is something like 5-fold in the economy.
Oh yeah. In other words, every dollar that's spent on housing recirculates through the economy. You need the stuff to put into the house, dishwashers and carpets, and you need the stuff on the roof, keeps the house dry, and you need people to maintain the grass and cut the hedges, right? That's the multiplier effect.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Great. All right. Here's another one for me, and I want to get your take on it. And then I'll open up the floor to you, and we can hear maybe if you have some potential presents or pitfalls for the year ahead. Okay. So here's another one of mine. We'll call it number 3. Elon Musk's SpaceX becomes the largest, most expensive IPO ever, and ironically, the most oversubscribed. People are going to go nuts for it. What do you think?
Oh, I feel like we're singing from the same hymn book. That 100%, and I want a piece of it. I've got my team, on at the ready, so that we can snag some of the shares when they come public. But yeah, I think that is the exciting thing about where we are. It's not just space; it's robotics and it's full self-driving. Just think of John and me. Our kids can't take away our keys because we'll have a full self-driving car, and it will. And our robot may be the one sitting in the driver's seat. So I'm pretty optimistic about the future and what it means for the way we live. And I think you're 100% right that SpaceX is going to dwarf every other IPO that we've ever seen in our careers.
So they have about 25 billion, which is shocking, but nonetheless, 25 billion in revenues. And they're talking about like a $1.5 trillion value. So, I mean, this thing would be trading at 65 times sales. And as a stock picker, that starts to get expensive. Does that scare you?
No, it's, I think you and I have actually talked about this when we've been on the air together.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at Amazon, I never understood that as a classically trained value manager. I mean, I understood what they did, but I couldn't figure out how people could continue to chase the stock price when there were no earnings. And the stock is up, I'm wrong on the preciseness of it, but close, range-wise, about 175 to 180,000%
wow.
since the IPO. So when was it too late to get in? And that's one of the lessons I learned with Tesla. You have a narrative stock and people are willing to, just suspend valuations. And so I think SpaceX is another one where you will see, and he's got such a rabid retail investor following that I'm pretty sure you will see that stock can continue once it IPOs continue to do well.
Yeah, great point on growth. It tends to bring its own momentum. Okay, so let me turn the mic, if you will, over to you. Are there any sort of presence or pitfalls as you think about 2026? Anything that excites you, but at the same time there might be a flip side to it, and you just want to sort of be balanced in your perspective?
Yeah. So our investing theme has been old economy companies that have pivoted to the new technologies. And so think Walmart over Target. And then the suppliers of the picks and shovels. And that's been our theme for about 3 years. And so every year when we hear that the tech trade is over, I've used that as an opportunity to add to our holdings. At some point that party does end, but I don't think this is that yet. So we have what we call our 6 for 26. We had 5 for 25 that were up about 28% through November.
Well done.
And we'll be running the numbers on those here shortly. But the 6 for 26 is a broader universe of names. So Walmart's one of them. We have D.R. Horton as one of our names because we do think that housing will recover. It has to if the president has any interest in winning the midterms. And then we have some tech names. So we have CrowdStrike, which is AI meets cybersecurity. We have Tesla in there. And it's always this. Oh, and then Quanta Services. I don't know if that's 6. It might be still only 5. But our objective was to broaden out the portfolio where we think the economy is going. And I do think that your prediction, your first prediction, is right. And though we don't want to see increasing inflation, it won't be debilitating as the economy continues to grow. So that's really how we're investing our portfolios. Pitfalls, I think it's geopolitical risk. I was reading this morning about our Navy being not big enough or adept enough at the moment, and that the Chinese believe they'll be ready to take over Taiwan in 2029, I think it was. So we need to see some action there. Yeah,
that's wow, John, jump in here on this one. China going into Taiwan.
Well, let's remind all our audience. Putin said if President Trump was president in 2021 to 2025, he would have never gone into Ukraine.
Right.
China would have never gotten Afghanistan, especially $85 billion worth of our equipment. And President Xi has said that as long as President Trump is president, that he's not going to go into Taiwan.
Yeah, but that's only for another 3 years.
Well, then, the American people, instead of tiptoeing through the tulips,
right?
And I play that song on our show once in a while, because they can't be naive. America is under attack. I'm a middle of the road. I'm not a Democrat, Republican. I'm a middle of the road American. But I can see America is under attack in several ways. Our borders were under attack. Feeding drugs to our kids, to our adults, under attack. In our cities, You think this Antifa, who's paying them? Our cities are under attack.
Yeah, that's always a question.
So
who's paying
Trump,
those guys?
Listen, me and the President Trump have had long discussions on it. He knows what I know, and he knows even more than I know.
Yeah.
But there are people, our cities are under attack. You think these people are picketing? The same people that go city by city, there's a paid group, go city by city by city to create chaos.
Yeah, well, that's certainly been proven. There have been a number. Even the New York Times, to their credit, and, let's be honest, they tend to fall on a very, different side of the spectrum than you and I. But even the New York Times said that, yes, there are these paid people who go from place to place. Bringing it back to Taiwan, because that's so important for so many investors as the hub of semiconductors.
That's why even Schumer.
Yeah.
Who doesn't agree on anything,
right?
Has placed, I forget the number, 500 billion? I don't know, 500, it's not 500 million, it's chump change these days, to have more chip factories.
Right, here in the U.S.
In the United States.
So that we can bring the manufacturing
because he
home.
Realizes.
Yeah. He can see the writing on the wall.
He can see. He's a smart guy, Schumer.
Yeah.
Even though he's playing the violin to the Democrats.
Yeah. And trying to appeal to the far side. Nancy,
no, I tell the truth.
Nancy.
You know why? We tell the truth at WABC.
Yeah.
That's why WABC has become number one.
Number one. Well, it's thanks to you, John Catsimatidis. Nancy, how do we deal with Taiwan as investors?
That's a hard one. I got this one wrong, Adam. I was concerned in the last administration that there was some risk, and so we sold our position in Taiwan Semi. Now we bought Broadcom and we bought AMD, but we missed the rally because I was concerned about geopolitical risk. Rare for us to ever do something like that, but I think you just have
Nancy,
to be.
Don't miss the next rally because I already predicted 2026. It's going to be 60,000 Dow by December 31, 26, unless the Supreme Court screws us.
That's bold, but I don't know that you're wrong. I think we're in a very robust bull market for some period of time. So, you can't get them all right. I got that one wrong. I think investors ought to be, aware, but we have a huge Taiwan Semi chip factory going in here.
Where, in Arizona, where you are, or Nevada?
In Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in Arizona right now, and it's incredibly big. I think it's really two major foundries plopped together, but they're building outside of Taiwan, but it hasn't been easy because they have the expertise and they had to bring over a lot of folks. So it's taken longer than many expected. But I think you just have to assume as an investor that we will get this right one way or another. And so, hope is not an investment strategy, but Taiwan Semi has continued to dominate and grow, and they are diversifying.
Agreed. And the beauty of this country is that we do get things right. Not always on the first time, but we here in this country, in this wonderful place called America, we get it right.
Yeah, but we have to realize, the biggest problem we had in the last 5-6 years is realizing that we are under attack. Even during President Trump's first term, the reason I don't think, it's like taking over a company.
Yeah.
We took over a lot of companies. I take over a company. I keep all the employees. I try to keep all the employees.
Right.
And I think when President Trump walked into the Oval Office, he felt that he's going to save everybody, keep all the employees. He didn't realize that President Obama took 2,000 of his key people, put them into civil service positions all over in every agency.
To create a bureaucracy that was impenetrable.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
And
that's
that bureaucracy, I will tell you, my son pointed out, I can't really talk about, pointed out some people in the Oval Office that were working against him.
Right.
And the person that pointed it out to my son got fired instead of the people that were against him. So the behind the scenes things, the violin was playing.
Yeah.
So, but President Trump had 4 years on the beach. And when he came back,
He hit the ground running.
He hit the ground running, and he realized what happened during the first 4 years. Do you really think President Biden got 81 million votes in 2020?
Personally, no.
If you look at the numbers,
right,
it never happened.
Yeah.
It was all, they used the excuse of COVID, and they had absentee balloting. They had the electronic machines. They had this.
Nancy, weigh in. I sense something.
Well, I mean, in Arizona, we had the person that was in charge of the polling booths shut them down, and she was on the ballot for governor. You remember that scandal? And we had a bunch of people in our firm that couldn't get in there to get their votes delivered. So I'm not smart enough to know what happened, but it was certainly suspicious.
Well, not to mention all the blue votes from Maricopa County. Never happened before, but I guess we'll never know. But fortunately, we have set ourselves on a more positive path.
Well, that's what I've said to the president and what I've said to everybody, that you got to make sure that the 2026 elections, one American, one vote. And this crap in California about you get penalized if you ask for ID. That's a lot of crap.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody listen, you need an ID to get in an office building in New York. You need an ID to get on an airplane. I mean, you need an ID. The American people deserve an honest vote.
They absolutely do. And by the way, Nancy deserves to get back to her horses, John.
Nancy, straighten out Arizona. You're the main person in Arizona. You straighten out Arizona for us.
Okay, I'll get on it.
Nancy, thanks for joining us, and go get back on the horses and have a wonderful ride for John and I stuck here in New York.
In the snow. All
right, slave away, man.
Okay. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, bye-bye.
John, we'll take a quick break and be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, we are back, and this is my last segment. I'm going to turn it over to Adam Johnson, one fine person, and Maria Bartiromo's assistant, though, just about. You're on her show all the time.
Oh, she's been so good to me, John. She has me on the show every Wednesday from 6 to 9, and we get to just talk about stocks and the economy and making money, and it's just a joy. I've met so many wonderful people.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in today, and
thank you.
WABC Foundation will make a contribution to your favorite charity.
Oh, God bless.
Okay.
Well, thank you. That's very generous.
And well, what do you want to talk about? What do we say?
Well, so, I've been talking about how one of my exercises, as I took a little break from work over the past few days, was to look ahead to next year. And so I run the Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund, and I decided to come up with Bullseye's 12 Days of Christmas, a dozen potential presents or pitfalls for the year ahead. And so let me share one with you because I think it'll resonate.
Please.
It's number 9. Trade school becomes an acceptable alternative to college and a buffer to AI-driven job losses.
Well, 12 years ago, I ran for mayor for the city of New York.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a Republican primary to Joe Lhota, and Rudy Giuliani was his he was Rudy Giuliani's first deputy mayor.
Yep.
And Rudy was supporting him. So I really lost. Joe is a very fine person. Me and Joe never argued, but a lot of people supported Rudy Giuliani, and I lost to really Joe Lhota and Rudy Giuliani. And I had the Liberal Party nomination, and I didn't stay in after the Republican primary, which might have been a mistake because I might have won.
Yeah.
But the alternative is I made a few B's after that. So New York lost a few trillion, but what are you going to do? But that was one of my segments.
Trade schools matter.
I went to Brooklyn Tech High School.
Yeah.
And I came from a poor neighborhood in Harlem, and they had foundry. They had architecture class. They had, almost machine shop class. And I also made aviation high school. So my point was that not everybody not everybody is destined to go to college. Not everybody should be pushed into college and go into debt for $100,000, $200,000, borrow it to go to college.
Yeah, it's expensive.
And my proposal was, okay, we have aviation high school in New York.
Great.
Well, that's great. It teaches you to get a job at $60 an hour in the aviation business. And we wanted bricklayers. We wanted electricians.
Yeah.
We wanted plumbers. So I advocated more vocational schools because if you're good, the one thing about America, if you're good in the things you do, you could become a millionaire.
Yes.
If you're a great bricklayer, you start a bricklaying company. If you make a good plumber, you start a plumbing company.
Yes.
And guaranteed in America, only in America, the land of opportunity, you could become a millionaire by working hard at any of those professions. And we needed more high schools to be specialists in automobile mechanics, computers now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even, I'm going to go back to Marty Supreme. It shows you that Marty Reisman, who I knew very well, that Marty Supreme, the new movie, was quasi close to it. That if you're the best ping pong player in the world, you could become world famous too.
Yeah, that's right.
Only in America, land of opportunity.
Yes.
So, but I think we're fighting the teachers' unions. Where the teachers, when I went to school 50 years ago,
right,
loved the students more than the majority of the teachers now. And right now, our kids are falling behind, especially after COVID. And we have to solve the education problem.
Yes, we do.
And President Trump knows about that too. Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, knows about that.
What she dismantled. She dismantled these Department of Education in order to give the money to states so that local school boards can administer that money directly, instead of some bureaucrat in Washington saying, here's how you're going to spend it in Virginia. Here's how you're going to spend it in Texas. No, let local school boards, empower them to spend the money the way they see most effective.
They hurt our country.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
You know who I have on my show every Sunday?
Who's that?
Lynn Shaw, and she defends our kids. Washington is still a swamp. Not just the Democrats. Both sides are still a swamp.
Well, people have their ingrained interests, and they don't want to give it up. You know, you give people a little bit of power, and they don't want to give it up. And if they've got a comfortable seat and a perch, and they can start moving other people around and or more money around, they don't want to give it up. That's why, John, you and I are entrepreneurs. We've created our own businesses, and for me, that's where I want to concentrate my effort.
Another friend of mine, J.T. Fox, he just wrote a book on entrepreneurship.
Did he? What'd he say?
And one chapter is about me.
About you?
Yeah.
Really?
And he is a entrepreneur, worldwide entrepreneur. I call him up. I said, what country are you in? Sometimes South Africa, sometimes Australia, sometimes Singapore.
Right.
And he goes around the world teaching entrepreneurship.
Love it.
And you should talk to him sometime.
Oh, I'd enjoy that. Yeah, let me tell you, and by the way, speaking as an entrepreneur, boy, is it hard. I mean,
you're on the edge, and that was one of my things that I did. I was an entrepreneur, and I was such an entrepreneur, I'm always living on the edge.
Well, that's it. I mean, John, when I started my business, every month I would transfer money from my savings account to my checking account so I could spend it. And it took over 2 years before I was able to reverse it and start saving again.
My book.
It's hard.
My book that's available on WABC radio, in the bookstore, teaches a lot of grandmothers and grandfathers buy the book. A lot of fathers they teach kids how to become, better than you are.
Is there a secret, John? There's no
Greek diners anymore. You know what? It's
Why
a
not?
joke I saw.
Why not?
Because the fathers worked 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, and they sent their kids to school to become accountants, lawyers, investment bankers.
Yeah.
There's nobody left to run the Greek diners. And the
true.
same thing
It's
with
hard work.
the Chinese restaurants. The owners that worked 80 hours a week, they sent their kids, and the kids become very smart.
Yep.
And they don't want to run Chinese restaurants.
Yeah. It cuts both ways, doesn't it?
It cuts both ways. And America is the greatest city in the world, but they're trying to ruin America. And I ask every one of our listeners out there, work hard for America. Don't tiptoe through the tulips and get fooled by the people that promise you everything for nothing. And there's not a single socialist country, communist country, where they're breaking the doors to get in.
No, of course not. Because why would you? I mean, this is the place that offers upside and incentive. And if you have a dream, you can dare to dream it. It's a beautiful place to be, John.
The greatest city in the world. Let's not ruin it. And we're not going to let Mondami ruin it.
No, we're not going to. But what we are going to do is take a very quick break.
Well, and I'm going to go away.
Are you? Really? You're out of here?
I've been here for 4 hours already. And we'll see you later.
Okay, John. I'm staying with everybody. You go have a walk and get some lunch. You deserve it.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, Steve Moore is not here today. He is enjoying life with his family, but I am here. And my name's Adam Johnson. I'm thrilled to spend my Saturday afternoon with you in what is a very gray and snowy New York City. I just want to have a little fun here. We're going to create an all-new segment. This is all happening in real time. I don't know about you, but I used to read the New York Times. I used to read the New York Times religiously. I thought it was a great newspaper. And then something happened. In fact, something terrible happened. It got so biased and so difficult to read that I actually got rid of my subscription. And I'd been a subscriber for, 10, 12, 15 years. So I no longer read it. But I just thought, you know what, today, let's see what's on the front of the New York Times and see what we make of it. And we'll do this together. And, of course, they have Donald Trump's picture on the front because they have nothing to say if he doesn't say something first, because all they do is try to respond to him. So there he is on the top, looking very presidential. I think it's an outstanding picture. So my kudos to the New York Times for showing a flattering picture of President Trump. And it says here, quote, here's the headline. Trump's claims about Nigeria strike belie. That doesn't even make sense. Belie a complex situation on the ground. Yes, it is very complex. But what's curious about what happened over the Christmas holiday, where warplanes, U.S. warplanes, were making strikes against ISIS. ISIS had been killing Christians. And here we now have a president who is finally standing up to ISIS and to the forces of evil around the world and doing something about it and defending Christians on Christmas. And if that's not a wonderful thing, I don't know what is. I think that's an example to so many of us. And as I'm reading through this article, it's clear that the New York Times is trying to criticize the president, and yet Nigeria actually welcomed the United States in. And isn't it interesting that you don't read that anywhere in what the New York Times has to say about it? So it's just fascinating to see how a paper or a news outlet in general will tell you the story that they want to say, but it's not necessarily the full story. Now, granted, there are probably some other publications we could go to that would do just the opposite. In fact, I'd argue if you really want a sense for what's happening in the world and you want to get a balanced view, you should probably go to multiple news sources. But one of the good news items about WABC Radio is that that's what happens every day. It's a very balanced perspective on WABC, and I'm honored to be here, if only for but a day, stubbing for the great Steve Moore on his wonderful show. Here's another one from the New York Times. It says, goodbye and ? Good riddance to the Metro card. So I don't know how many of you listening are New Yorkers and how many of you are sitting somewhere else. Maybe you're listening from Miami right now. Maybe you're down in Wichita, where it's very cold. Maybe you're out there in crazy California, God bless, where my mother is actually from. But nonetheless, here in New York City, we all get around by subway when we're not on a city bike. And for years, if you remember, we had tokens for years, and you would go to the token booth and you'd actually get a token, and it was like the size of a quarter. And I can't tell you how many guys growing up on Wall Street I would work for, and they prided themselves in having token cufflinks. That was a thing at one point because they got rid of the tokens. You thought, what are you going to do? And wow, you were a real New Yorker if you had those token cufflinks. Well, they got rid of that, and then they brought in the Metro card. What a wonderful idea. You could get this little Metro card that was kind of the shape of a credit card, but it was flexible. And by the way, it was recyclable and even rechargeable so that you could reload your Metro card with more money, and you'd slip it through the thing. And then a funny thing happened. Wow. Amazing that actually New York City, granted this was under Mayor Bloomberg, who was quite innovative himself, teamed up with MasterCard, and MasterCard figured out how to use the old double click function on the iPhone so that you could go through the turnstile and double click. And that's now how most people get through the subway. It's a double click with your iPhone. I'll call it progress. So I think it's funny that here the New York Times is saying 30 years ago, the newfangled method of paying for New York City's buses and subways seemed like cutting edge technology. Okay, yeah, it kind of did. I actually agree with the New York Times on that. And now its days are numbered. And you know what? That's progress. That's the way it works. There is always something that's changing. Think about artificial intelligence, and people worry that it's going to take jobs. And guess what? It will. It probably already has started doing that. And yet, there are going to be other jobs that will be created by artificial intelligence. We need people to design robots that may be robots taking our job. They're going to need to service robots. We're going to need more, and I mean many more, thousands of more electricians to wire all these new artificial intelligence driven data centers. We're going to need more HVAC specialists to come in and keep them cool, because all those machines generate staggering amounts of heat. So you have to have incredible cooling programs and protocols at all these data centers. Well, that just doesn't happen on its own. But somehow we're under this mistaken impression that robot took my job and that this is a terrible thing. I mean, remember what happened, was 6 months ago, 7 months ago, when all the dock workers went on strike at various ports around the country because a lot of the ports wanted to automate. And you can understand why they wanted to automate. It means they could handle more ships, move more containers, perhaps even do so more efficiently. So it's increased commerce. But all the dock workers said, hang on, that's my job. We don't want these jobs to disappear. And instead, they got paid a whole lot more money. And in fairness, those guys work hard, and they're out there in the snow and the ice, and they deserve what they make. But, you know, progress does happen. Technologies change, and we have to adapt. And I think that's one of the messages. We all have to adapt. And that's just the way it is. Here's another one from the New York Times. This is fascinating. Government officials, according to the New York Times, once stopped false accusations after violence. Now some join in. It goes on to say prominent businesses and government figures spread rumors about the attack on Brown University's campus this month, reigniting questions about accountability and online discourse. All right, let's be crystal clear. There is no room in this great republic of ours for that kind of violence or for discrimination of any kind. The key to this great country is that we all come from so many different backgrounds, and we all come together, and we work together, and we share together, and we grow together. And it's not always smooth, and we have different approaches. Republicans and Democrats are very different. I'm a Republican. It's not to say I don't have Democrat friends. I do. But some of my views differ from others, and I think it's important for all of us to listen to one another. If there's anything that's been lost in Washington, it's that ability to come together and meet in the middle of the road. We were talking earlier in the show about some of the horse trading that used to happen during previous administrations. Bill Clinton was a horse trader. Ronald Reagan was a horse trader. Tip O'Neill was a horse trader. Newt Gingrich, a horse trader. These are gentlemen of very different backgrounds, politically, economically, socially, etc. Some of them had very strong and very divergent views, and yet they were all able to come together and help this great country move forward. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could somehow bring that back in either a small way or large ways? But I've also found that life is not about grand gestures. It's about little tiny gestures that make a difference every day. Being nice to someone on the street, even randomly. The funny thing is, in New York, if you smile at someone and say hello, they wonder, what's up with that guy? But sometimes that's just called being nice. And you go down south, and actually, it's not nice if you're not nice. And so there are things that we in New York could probably learn from other parts of the country, and I'd say the same about other parts of the country learning from New York. So that has been my little indulgence exploring the New York Times. We could probably do the same with the Wall Street Journal. It's just that I'd have less material because I tend to agree with the Wall Street Journal more. And don't even get me started on Bloomberg, which used to be right down the middle of the road, and then they got so political. And by the way, the thing about Bloomberg, and I'll let you know a little secret on the news business, if it's not bad news, people don't pay attention. So the market could be up, soaring to new highs, and guaranteed the next morning Bloomberg's going to find something that's down and try to build a story around how well, but there's this, and gosh, there's that, and we better be very careful and vigilant. Because again, if it's not bad news, you're not paying attention. But certainly we appreciate your paying attention. And certainly I appreciate your letting me come and join you on this chilly willy of a Saturday after Christmas. We're having fun here at WABC. We are going to take a very brief break. And when we come back, I promise more fun. And again, thanks for being here. See you in 5.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Adam Johnson back with you on the Moore Show. Mr. Moore is enjoying a little hard-earned vacation. The curious thing about it is he took his vacation in Chicago. Not sure I would necessarily go there, but that is where he is from. And we wish Steve all the best on this very chilly day here in New York City. So I've been talking a little bit, sharing over the course of the past couple of hours, some of my, how should we say this, presence and pitfalls for 2026. In other words, what I did is I said, well, it's a time of year where we sort of look forward, and I called it my 12 Days of Christmas, a dozen presents and pitfalls for the year ahead. We've already talked about some of them, and let's just start off with something near and dear to my own heart, artificial intelligence. Here you go. AI remains the biggest value-creating investment theme, certainly the biggest of my career, and AI stocks soar to new highs. People say, oh, that's crazy, Adam. These AI stocks are so overvalued. And I say, really? What's overvalued? I mean, back in 2001 and 2009, the NASDAQ traded as high as 75 or 80 times earnings. Well, right now, the NASDAQ trades at 35 times earnings. That's not overvalued. Certainly not by the stretch of previous bubbles. And this is nowhere near a bubble. In fact, there's some AI stocks that are quite cheap. NVIDIA is the one everybody talks about. That trades at about 25 times earnings. You say, whoa, 25 times earnings. What is this guy talking about? It's Saturday. I don't want to talk about earnings. I want to talk about sports. Yeah, well, you want to make some money? 25 times earnings is cheap. That's barely more than the S&P 500, and it's got 5 times the growth. NVIDIA is cheap. I mean, there are a number of names out there, but you know them all, from Applied Digital to CoreWeave to CleanSpark. Have we even talked about that? CleanSpark is a Bitcoin miner, and they are the lowest cost Bitcoin miner, I think, in the world, certainly in this country. That stock trades at 10 times earnings. That is a fraction of the S&P. The S&P trades at 22 times earnings. CleanSpark trading at 10, 11 times earnings. Oh my gosh, that's so cheap. And what makes it even better is that they're diverting some of their capacity into AI. So they're not just going to mine for Bitcoin. They're actually going to use this for AI, which helps all of us. So there's a whole group of stocks out there that are just not cheap. And I know some people have been saying, yeah, but hang on, Adam. This AI thing costs so much money. We're spending so much. Yeah, you're right. We are spending a lot of money. But guess what? We can afford it. The average S&P 500 company is only spending 1% of revenues on AI. Okay? We can afford that. And you say, yeah, but the hyperscalers, you know, the Googles and Amazons and Metas of the world, they're spending 20% of revenues. Yep, you're right. That is a lot of money. But the good news is they're growing their revenues at 30 to 35%. So if you're only spending 20%, you can afford that. So it's not all bad, guys. And I think that's important to realize. So AI, yes, it's going up. It's going to keep going up. If you're worried about it being too expensive, please do not worry. Okay, here's one that I think has turned a lot of heads, and I'm not sure what you're going to make of it, but I'm going to just throw it out there. So Putin, Trump, and Xi, the presidents of Russia, the U.S., and China, respectively, unofficially create the quote-unquote strongman alliance, so each can get what he wants. I've turned some heads with that, and I think some have actually said, AJ, you might have taken a step too far. Well, hang on a second. Let's think about it. Putin wants Ukraine. Looks like he's going to get a piece of it, maybe 20 or 30% of it, and, you know, Ukraine will get U.S. security guarantees. All right, so Putin looks like he may be getting what he wants, and as we know, there have been multiple conversations between Messieurs Putin and Trump. Meanwhile, Xi, well, we already know what he wants. He wants Taiwan, which scares the heck out of the world because Taiwan is the maker of probably 80% of the semiconductors in the world. And all of a sudden, China will be controlling all of that. Well, that's a little scary. Now, I know that President Xi has said that he will not do anything with Taiwan in an aggressive manner as long as President Trump is in office. But guess what? That's only for 3 years. And we all know the Chinese look a lot longer than just 3 years down the pike. So might it be, and again, there are lots of conversations between these two presidents, President Trump and President Xi, might it be that there are certain aspects to those conversations that we don't know or we can't appreciate? And might there be deals that are starting to take shape? I don't know. I don't think anybody does know. Only the people having those conversations would know. But you can't help but wonder. And then you say, well, what does President Trump want? Well, he wants respect for the United States. He wants a strong manufacturing base here. He wants jobs coming back. He wants the world to invest here. And by the way, why wouldn't the world invest here? It's the biggest economy, the strongest economy. We have creativity. We have fewer regulations. There's a lot that should make the rest of the world want to be here. And certainly we're doing a lot of things, and this president is doing a lot of things to make all of that happen. And that's very exciting. But then you say, let's play devil's advocate. Okay, well, if Putin wants Ukraine and Xi wants Taiwan, is there any land that we want? Well, yeah. How about the Panama Canal? How about rights to build more bases in Greenland for the sake of security? And it's not just military security, it's economic security as well, because now that you have melting in the polar ice cap, they're able to bring large ships, very large ships, over the North Pole. That's the new passage. And guess what? That means they're going past Greenland. So there is an argument in any number of different ways to somehow secure that for the U.S. Look at what's happening in Venezuela. Venezuela has been bedeviled by the scourge of Nicolas Maduro for a very long time. And the Venezuelan people have paid a horrible, horrible cost. Not only that not have their democracy, their wealth has been stripped of them by a president who has taken it from them. And now, as the U.S. is attacking the narco drug boats and making it very clear that certain behavior is no longer acceptable, like seizing American oil assets as they did for so long from ExxonMobil, etc. And now we are taking the tankers and we're starving that economy of money. All of a sudden, there's a new sheriff in town in this hemisphere, and his name is Donald Trump. And it's a wonderful thing. And even if you're on the fence about President Trump, even if you're a Democrat and saying, I don't agree with everything he does, it's okay. You can be a Republican and not agree with everything that a given president does. But there's something about America asserting itself in its own territory that I think not only is a wonderful thing for America, but sends a strong message to the world. Now, you could also say, yeah, but hang on. It cuts both ways. If Trump wants Greenland and the Panama Canal, well, it's kind of sending a green light to Putin that, yeah, we get this national security thing and you want Ukraine. And it kind of sends a green light to Xi. Okay, we understand it. You want to take back Taiwan. So, yes, it does cut both ways. But that's back to my original point about this strongman alliance. Might it be? Again, I'm positing. No one knows the answer to this question. It's food for thought as we all think about the end of one year and the beginning of the next. Is it possible there's some new alliance that's taking shape between, how curious, the U.S., Russia, and China? I ask the question. There are all sorts of questions we could ask, and I wish we could have a call in so that you could ask your questions. But as I think about the new year, I see far more to like than to fear. I see an economy that's growing at 4.2%, albeit with some unemployment that has ticked up, but we still have millions and millions of people working, and we're creating on average 50,000 more jobs per month than we're cutting. So that's very strong. I see a new tax structure where hardworking people are going to keep more of their money. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. Lower tax brackets. So you will probably see your paycheck get bigger once 2026 begins. In addition, we're going to see the largest refunds in history. And that is a wonderful thing for this economy. So remember, I'm an investor. My job is to manage a portfolio of stocks on behalf of people, to try to find great American companies that are growing, that are changing the world, that are changing the way we all interact with one another, the way we operate. So my job is to look at the economy from the top down, as we just have. And again, I see far more to like than to fear. And then it's to try to figure out which companies are most leveraged to those big picture themes that we're talking about. Whether that's artificial intelligence, whether that's growth, whether that's demand at data centers. There is so much to like, not just in the markets or not just in the economy, but about this great country and the direction we are moving, where people are empowered, where people have freedoms, where people are able to take an idea and run with it and grow. This is the greatest country that has ever been created, and it started as an experiment almost 250 years ago. So yes, as we look towards 2026, what will ultimately be the 250th anniversary of this great country, I see far more to like than to fear. And I hope that you do too. I hope that you are with me. I hope that we are all together. And I hope that you have a very special weekend with friends and family. And not just this weekend, this cold, gray Saturday here in New York, but tomorrow with all the football that we'll be watching and all the food, the leftovers that we're still going to enjoy. And then next week, we'll work for a couple of days and hopefully not too much, because there's this wonderful thing called New Year's where we get to sort of do it all one more time before, yes, then we actually really do have to get back to work and make money and provide and do all the things that we do, but that's okay. This is our weekend. This is our week and a moment to just take a break. So thank you for letting me take a break with you and for sharing this day and sharing some thoughts about this great country we call home.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.